Hello, I am here in England. We're going to talk a little bit about some sweeping stuff, a little bit about tapping stuff, and then just a couple of speed picking patterns that you could start looking at a little bit. I also have a video on palm muting that I'll send you, although I'm pretty sure you know how to do that stuff anyway, but I'll send it to you anyway. So the first thing to do is just to start talking about sweeps. We'll run through this as quickly as we can. The big thing with sweeps is understanding that you're going to be making major sweeps or minor sweeps primarily. There are diminished sweeps and augmented sweeps and seventh sweeps and all kinds of different things. Understand when we say the word sweep, what we're really talking about is what's referred to as an arpeggio. Arpeggio, the term for arpeggio means broken chord. That's an arpeggio. Guitar players sometimes get it mixed up as far as what you actually use them for. I mean, you can use arpeggios. They don't have to be fast. You can use them very melodically in lots of different places. See, it doesn't just have to be a speed picking thing, but what we'll do is talk about the technique of sweeping and then talk a little bit about tapping just so you can kind of start exploring it and we can look at it more in lessons. So the first thing to do is to think about what a chord is. Okay, when we talk about a major chord, for instance, a major chord consists of a root, a major third, and a fifth. So we have root, third, and fifth. And so what I'm going to be doing is, first thing I want to do is find the note that I want, the chord that I want on the second string. So for instance, if I wanted to play over an A major chord, I would need to find an A on the second string. That's where my root's going to be. So I'm going to go up to the 10th fret of the second string. That note is A. Now if I know my theory, my notes would be A, C sharp, and E. That's what is an A chord consists of, is A, C sharp, and E. So this note right here with my middle finger on the 10th fret is A. This note right here on the 9th fret of the first string is C sharp. And then my pinky, which is the 12th fret of the first string, is E. Now, again, you would either know that or be able to figure that out because you know your theory, or you're just going to memorize it because I just told you how to do it. So you have A, C sharp, and E. Okay, so the first thing is trying to get used to this shape, and this shape is always major. So if I wanted to play in G, for instance, I would move down to G, which is at the 10th fret with my middle finger on the second string. Now, the goal is here. This is where, a long time ago I learned how to do this, and I'm so glad I did because so much of, like, a lot of speed picking and stuff like that is built off this idea. And what's happening is you're trying to play economically. And the reason that is you're going to play as many downs or as many ups at one time as you can. And you're also going to use hammer-ons and pull-offs wherever it is needed as well. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to start off on the first string, 12th fret. Okay? Now I might not normally start there. I might start on one of the other notes. It wouldn't matter. I can start at any note I want as my emphasis pitch, but I'm just going to start there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pull-off from 12 to 9. And right now I'm doing that as a down pick. Now you could certainly start with an up pick if you wanted to, and you'll see why in a little bit. But in my head it makes sense obviously to start with a down because very seldom do I start with an up. You know, you'd start with a down. So anyway, I'm going to do my pull-off from 12 to 9. And this is where the most important part is going to the 10th fret of the second string with that down pick, and then being able to push through to the 9th fret of this next string with that same down pick. Now, the big thing to understand here with sweeping is it doesn't matter whether you're doing 2 strings or 3 strings or 4 strings or whatever. The point is to learn to push the pick through. You're not going... You're not lifting like this when you pick, like when you play. You know, you're lifting and putting it back down. With sweeping, you don't have time for that. You have to think of it like strumming. That's literally what you're doing, is pushing through. The only difference is that you're going at the speed that your left hand can go at. So if you're going, you're going to go that fast. You know, everybody thinks it should just be when you're sweeping. It might not be, okay? That's part of the whole thing with synchronicity between your hands, is you have to decide what you can do with these two guys and get them to synchronize and then do what you want from there. So this is a great little 2-string pattern where you're getting used to being able to push through. Now of course the problem is that you can't keep both these fingers down. get a chord. You don't want that. You have to separate them. The best way to separate them is to be pressing on the first string at all times, but use the tip of the index finger, like you do on power chords, to kill the string above it. So when you push through, see how I leave, but you're not going to hear this string. If I didn't do that, you're going to keep hearing that second string ring out. So I'm really just doing this, but this guy's getting out of the way right before I get there, and the tip of this finger is killing that string. Now, you can see how I'm doing downs here. Now, if I go back to my pinky, I'm already down here because I just picked down. So I'm not going to do a down, I'm going to do an up. So I have. Now, the good news is right after that note, I've got a pull up. That sounds like Woody Woodpecker. So I'm pushing through, then I'm pulling with an upstroke, and then pulling off there. So again, everybody always watches the left hand, but the truth is it's the right hand that's synchronizing this whole thing. You can't go faster than your left hand. You have to figure out but even when I'm going slow, I'm still pushing through. I'm not doing that. I'm coming to rest on the next string, and when I'm ready, I push through. So no matter where you go on the second string, you're always going to wind up like this is on D. That note right there at the 15th fret is D. It's going to be major. Now if I want this chord, I'll go back to A here since that's what we're using as a reference. If we want it to be minor, I'm going to move my first finger back 1 fret. Because if I want to play A minor, the notes would be A, C, E, not C sharp. So A, C, E. And again, you can see my first finger is planted. So if I wanted to play whatever, let's say I was playing E minor, D, C, see, so it's a great exercise to try and get used to. Once you start adding in more notes, the rules change a little bit. Now, what's happening here is when I add more notes or more strings, I'm not adding any other notes. I'm doing the same notes. I'm just playing octaves of those. So right here, what I did was played root, third, fifth. Well, I'm going to count backwards. Fifth, third, root, fifth. Because these two guys right here are octaves. So I went to the 9th fret of the 3rd string and added that note on, which would be my first finger. So I'm playing pinky, first, middle, first. Now this makes it a little more difficult. Same rule is going to apply, but now you have to press through down, down, down with that up. Again, having restraint over here to push through and line up. Don't, because if you start getting used to that, there's no way you're going to make a sweep. You'll be making an arpeggio, but you'd never be able to get it any faster than that. Okay? So what's going to happen then is I've got down, 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 up, pull off as usual. Then I got this poor guy in the middle, which has got to be an up, and then I got to go back to a down. Okay? Now if I wanted to make this minor, I can still make it minor by simply moving my first finger back to the 8th fret, because the 5th is still the 5th. That doesn't change. Okay? And I would strongly suggest that you start off with some of those things. Using 2 and 3 note per string patterns, then we can move on from there. Tapping, real quick here. Tapping, what you'd want to do is just start getting used to the motion of tapping if you've never done tapping before. Now, there's a couple ways you can tap. I tap with my middle finger, so that way I can hold on to my pick. Some people tap with their index finger and they'll hold on to the pick underneath here, between these 2 fingers or whatever. Usually you don't have time to do this and then all this kind of stuff, because then you got to go back and grab this. If it's a long section, then go for it. But if it's not very long, the key is just being able to use like your middle finger. Kind of grab onto the guitar here. And then I got to be able to tap the string with my middle finger. Now, the question is once I've tapped it, for instance, I'm going to play A minor pentatonic, so I'm going 5, 8, and then I'm going to go 12 here. Okay, so pentatonic down here. So I got 5, 8, 12. Now, when you pull off, do you pull towards the floor or do you pull towards the ceiling? Well, it's up to you, whichever one's more comfortable. I tend to pull towards the ceiling. It doesn't feel comfortable for me to go down, but again, tons of people do, so whatever's comfortable for you. So the first thing you want to get used to being able to do when you're tapping is there's a couple different patterns. The first one, for instance, I'm going to go 12, 5, 8. Okay. The other one is going 12, 8, 5. Okay. The first one always seems like it sounds a little more colorful. Kind of a Van Halen-ish sort of thing. And then you can make doubles. Now what I'm doing is I'm going 12, 12, and I'm pulling off to 5 and then hammering back to 8. Which is kind of a Randy Rhoads thing, like in Crazy Train. Okay, you can also do things where you slide. Now I don't have a lot of distortion on this guitar amp right now, but so what I'm doing is I'm tapping on 12, sliding to 13, back to 12, and then doing my pull-off. So those are the first ones that I would start off with as far as tapping goes too. Now if you want to, like, you could add a third note in. I could add my 7 in there, so I have 5, 7, 8. I could make downs or up. Combine them. Okay, go back and forth. So, I mean, there's all kinds of cool things that you can do with that. Anyway, so start off with that idea. What's great about 12 is kind of a cheater. You could use A minor pentatonic to start building things and just use 12 the whole time. It'll sound great. Everybody does it. So anyway, hopefully that's something you could work on.